user ID tracking and what it means for you being a manager or a digital analyst maybe, right? Let's discuss in this chapter. Alright guys, welcome back. First of all, let's discuss the concept of user ID tracking. Now, as I said that every time a user comes to your website which has got Google Analytics installed, the user gets a client ID, okay? But the client ID is in no way related to any personal information from which you can identify the user uniquely, right? It's anonymous. But if the user gave you permission to link, let's say some email ID or phone number with some ID from which you can uniquely identify the user, right? Based on user's permission, by the way, you cannot do it otherwise. Then it will be easier for you to identify those users in Google Analytics account. And then maybe by seeing their actions of what they have done and what kind of events they have tried out, you can offer some sort of discount or some relevant product to these users via their emails or phones or whatever it is, right? So therefore, user ID is the way to attach a user ID to the account, to the visitor. And you can then identify the users from your CRM data where the ID is linked to the CRM, something like that, okay? It also helps you identify these users across different devices. Right now, what happens is if a person like me, okay, I'm an individual user. If I open a website which has Google Analytics on my desktop on certain browser, okay, I get a client ID. But let's say I open the same website from my mobile device. I get another client ID. So for the Google Analytics account, these are two different users because there is no way to say whether both these users are same or not. But with user ID, once the user logs in, let's say I log in to the website using my email ID, and also I log into the device using my email ID. Now there is a common link. The email ID that has been used to log into both the devices can be used to connect both these accounts and both these devices, right? Given user permission. Again, I'm stressing on that because this has got a lot of implications related to the user privacy, right? So you have to be careful. You have to tell the user when they're signing up that we are going to collect XYZ information from you and use it for your, whatever tracking you want to do. Okay. So that's the concept of user ID. Two benefits over here. One, you're able to link the user to the actual email ID, personally identifiable information, and you're able to stitch the user visits across different devices into one, right? So if you have this kind of a criteria or condition, okay, and as a manager, you think that this kind of a implementation is going to help you drive your marketing efforts better, you can always go ahead and get user ID implemented. Let's go back to the screen and check this out, okay? So this is your website where users are coming and doing a login, okay? And from there, as soon as they log, obviously you will, or let's say they sign up for the first time, you will save the data somewhere of their sign up, right? It could be some database, or it could be a CRM, it could be a SQL database or some place where this information gets saved, okay? And when you save this information, email ID and phone number, you obviously assign an ID, this unique ID, which will uniquely identify this user, right? It is always there in a CRM or any kind of a SQL database. Now, all you need to do is somehow extract that ID, okay, and send it to Google Analytics, okay, on this login or sign up. Now, you have to be careful. You should not be sending any personally identifiable information. Google prohibits that. But if you are sending this ID and it goes in the account, you will be able to see the data of this user, not by the client ID that's assigned by Google, but by the user ID that you have assigned, okay? And now, outside the system, you can always connect your user ID to the phone number, and you can check the actions over here inside Google Analytics in the User Explorer report. Get out from there, check your CRM, and in the CRM, you match that ID to the email that you are checking, okay? And then you decide on what kind of promotions you want to send to this user, right? So that's how you make the connection. Now, how do you send this ID to Google Analytics? As a developer, this is an important topic to understand, and I cover it in a different course where I'm making a practitioner's video. But as a manager, I'll give you a few ideas of how you can do it. This is generally done in 2 or 3 different ways. Okay, the information can be passed in something called a data layer. Okay, data layer is a tag manager JavaScript object in which you can save the values in different ways, name value format. So you can say that as soon as the login happens, you populate the data layer with user ID and the actual ID of the user, and then Google Analytics can capture it. Okay, there is a mechanism to do that. Or you can save the user ID, and this is the more common one. So as soon as this login happens, you fetch the user ID from the CRM and save it in the cookie of the browser. Okay, cookie saves the user IDs in name value pairs. Cookies also save a lot of other kind of data. Remember that we saw the cookie where the Google client ID was also saved. Okay, underscore GA underscore, and then the client ID. Similarly, in user ID, you can save it as user ID. Okay, I capital over here. And then you can save the data along with it. And then what Google Analytics and Tag Manager can do, they can fetch the data from the cookie and pass it on to Google Analytics. Let me show that to you over here so that it becomes a little more clear to you. The rest of the part really becomes a complicated development scenario. Okay, so this is one account where I have done some sort of implementation. Okay, and with every page view, okay, this is showing, these triggers are showing page views. With every page view, what I do is I send the user ID from cookie and assign it to user underscore ID. That's what you are seeing over here, right? So with every page view, if the cookie user ID is available, it gets assigned, and then all the actions that the user takes. And remember, this has to be in the logged in mode. Once the logout happens, I will have to clear this cookie. Okay, that's what the law is all about. Now, since the cookie is there, the user ID gets assigned, and Google Analytics sees in the account that this is the user ID. Okay, and then all the actions, events, and everything that the user does is assigned to this particular user ID. Okay, now if I show you the analytics account of one of my clients' environment, and I have redacted quite a few of these items, this user 10 that you see over here, and this is also redacted, but let me tell you that this is a user ID over here. Okay, this is derived from the system and put over here. This is not Google's client ID. This one, the 9th row, it is Google's client ID. So now for this 10th one, all the data that you see is attached to this user ID, the 10th one. Okay, and now my client can take this ID, go to this CRM or database or wherever they have this ID, and check the corresponding email to this, and then they may plan some promotion for them. That's the mechanism. So I hope that you understand what the concept of user ID is. And if you need user ID, you feel that there is a certain benefit that you can gain from having the user ID. Obviously, you have got this tool, you know how it works. Now you have got to sit with your developer, understand how they can implement it, and get it going. One final benefit that I want to show you before we close this section on user ID, okay, is I'll take you back to the screen. And again, we will click on something called comparisons, okay? And this is also a tutorial on comparisons, by the way. Now what you can do is you can test your all users data with some comparative segment or cohort, okay? For example, if I click on this add new comparison, I can select a dimension, okay, include a dimension. And all these are dimensions, okay? Age, city, country, whatever data we have been seeing, all this will be counted as dimensions, okay? So for example, if I say country, okay, and I select Australia, I click on OK, click on apply. Okay, now I see this orange line over here. So compared to all users, this orange segment shows the traffic from Australia over a period of time. Okay, so now you can compare two kinds of segment, traffic from Australia and traffic from India, maybe from United States. And similarly, you can create all sorts of segments and groups and analyze your data like that. Okay, that's the advantage. Now you can actually close this, or maybe we add another one. Let's do that. And say signed. Okay, signed in with user ID. You can click on this, click yes, okay, apply. And then there is this blue cohort now, okay? And this blue cohort shows the data of all the users who have signed in with some user ID, okay, which means they're signed in users. And the blue one, the navy blue one, is for all the users, okay? And this one is only for the users who have signed in, okay? And you can see now the data of all the users who have signed in and how they are behaving. Most of the users are from certain countries, and there is different kinds of data from different kinds of charts and so on, right? So you get the idea. So this is what you can do with user ID. And along with this, we also learned what is comparisons and how you can create these kind of segments. Okay. So I hope that you're enjoying it and you're learning new stuff. Okay. If you have questions, you have always got this scope to put it in QA, the Q&A section, right? I almost always answer it within 6 hours, 4 to 5 hours. I will definitely answer it. And if I'm not, probably I'm sleeping, and that's the reason I'm not doing so. Okay. So I'm very active on Q&A. Maybe you have found some bad experience in some other platforms on instructors not replying or something like that, but on Udemy and on this platform, definitely along with my activity, you will find your questions getting answered. So please do that. And if you have doubts, if something is not clear, just don't get angry and say that, oh, what are you doing? Why are you not explaining this? Do check out the Q&A. put your question over there, and I'll definitely come up with some explanation, or I'll create a video specially for you on your request, okay, and put it in the course. So that is a good way for me to also make the course better. So with that, I'll close this chapter and I'll move into the next chapter. Thank you for sticking so long with this course. Thank you.